It was a dark and stormy night. The wind blew through the deserted streets, leaving windows and doors rattling in its wake. The only light came from flickering street lamps, which cast eerie shadows on the pavement. I was on my way home from work, hurrying to escape the rain and cold. I've always been afraid of the dark, and this night was no exception.
As I turned the corner of my street, I saw something that made my blood run cold. At the end of the block stood a figure, shrouded in darkness. I couldn't tell any details, but I could tell he was tall and thin. It was as if it was made of shadows, and the street lamps could not penetrate the darkness that surrounded it. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I could only stand there and watch the figure. It was as if he was watching me, waiting for me to make a move. I knew I had to run, but my legs wouldn't do it. I was paralyzed with fear. The figure started moving towards me, and I finally found the strength to turn and run. I ran down the street, my feet hitting the pavement. The rain was coming down hard now, and I could barely see the sheets of water. I could hear the figure behind me coming closer. I didn't dare to look back, I just kept running. I finally made it to my front door, groping for the keys in my trembling hands. I managed to open the door, and I closed it behind me. I was safe, but I knew that figure was still out there. I closed the door and leaned against it, trying to catch my breath. But the figure wasn't done with me yet. I heard a scratch on the door, and then a soft whisper. I couldn't understand the words, but it sent shivers down my spine. I knew I had to get out of there. I picked up my coat and keys and ran out the back door. I ran through the streets, not knowing where I was going. I knew I had to move away from that figure. I could still hear the whispering louder and louder. It was like he was following me, hunting me. I finally reached the edge of town where the streets were deserted. I fell on the bank, panting and covered in mud. I looked up at the sky, and the rain had stopped. The clouds were parting, and the moon was shining down on me. And then I saw it. The figure stood at the end of the street, looking at me. I could see his face now, and it was a crooked, monstrous face. His eyes were glowing red, and his mouth fell open in a silent scream. I knew then that I was dealing with something out of this world. I tried to run, but my legs were not moving. I was paralyzed with fear. The figure started moving towards me, and I knew this was the end. But then something unexpected happened. The figure stopped and looked up at the sky as if it had heard something. And then it vanished into thin air. I sat there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. And then I heard a voice. It was coming from heaven, and it was a voice I knew. It was my father, who passed away years ago. He said, "Do not be afraid, my child. I will always protect you."